Is Abdulwasiu, and I'm going to be giving a short tutorial on how to perform app integration in Django CMS 5. You can find me at Abdulwasiu on the Django CMS Discord. So a little bit about the background for the tutorial. A lot of the tutorial out there shows how to perform app integration with Django CMS 3, but there has been a lot of changes in the community with Django CMS moving from 3 to 4, and recently Django CMS 5 was released. So it would be nice to show like the latest status of app integration in the Django CMS ecosystem, especially with front-end editing support. And that is why I'm making the tutorial video. So a little bit of prerequisites. It would be nice to have a knowledge of Django and to know a little bit about CMS, but if there isn't much knowledge about CMS, would get to it as the tutorial unfolds. So what we are going to be doing: create our venture environment, install the latest Django CMS, and create our project directory and create the vehicle app. So let me just get to it while so we are going to be using venv. So activate the virtual environment, then pip install Django CMS. And installs. I have it installed locally already to make everything faster. Then Django CMS dealer. Right, so there's a whole thing that goes through. So what are we trying to achieve in this tutorial? We would create a Django app called vehicle, and the app would have two models, car and car type. So a car type is a foreign key in car, so every car has a car type, and the car type could be Mercedes, Ferrari, Nissan. Then the specific car for each brand. Would then take these models and find out ways to configure them on the Django CMS app by adding it to the page, then further enabling support for front-end editing. So if you go back to the tutorial, right, we have created the project structure using Django admin project. Then super user, yes. Then it's too short. Right. So we should have our dealer. Now go to the dealer, and then we would create our vehicle app. So I've sort of taken the time to create what we'll be needing in a GitHub repository, and so what we'll be doing is I will restore the git commit, and we'll be going through each of the commit and taking it step by step as the project develops. So if I check git status, it should have it. What I have to do is also restore. Right, so now we would check our git log. Where do we want to start from? We want to start from dealer vehicle app with its model 7520. I want to check out. Right, so forget about that for now. And so what have we done here? Right, so we've created two models, Django models, which is car type, which is a brand, and so car type has a field called brand, which could be either any of the choices I showed earlier, Mercedes, Ferrari, or any other type of brand. Then we have our actual car model, which gives us the name of the car, the specific type. Then we we've registered it on the admin so we would have it show up on our Django admin. If you're familiar with Django, you already know what I'm talking about. Then we have our settings. We've added the vehicle app, which we created to our settings, so Django knows about the app. And I think that's everything for this. Right, after creating the app, it's customary in Django to create our migration. Right, .py make migrations, but then I have the migrations already. So if we check our so I have the migrations file already. So all we have to do is just migrate it. Migrate. Right, on the vehicle app. So if we run server, then we would get this page. Right, so this is the way a new installation of Django CMS looks like. So welcome to your Django CMS installation. Basically, Django CMS takes over the Django admin sort of. But if you go here, if you're familiar with Django, you can already see this is the Django admin site, right? But Django CMS goes further to add a couple of models, right? And this is the new vehicle app that we've added, right? So I think the first thing to do is to create a new page. So just create a new page. Django CMS, you can say home. Let's call it home, and give it welcome to the dealership. Make this bold. Just stop and create. Right, we get a page. Then we have, so the page is in draft mode. You can come here. Then we have a page tree where, if you check here, it's currently in draft. We can publish it. So you can view it. Published, right? So if we go to the site, we have our own page. Right. To go back to the content of our tutorial, we have vehicles. So we can have a car type, and we have a car. So I'm just going to create a couple of car types using Mercedes. Format I have added Mercedes, right? And I can have a Ferrari. Right, so for each of the type we want to create something for them. So for each of the cars, so for Mercedes we have EQE SUV sedan, EQE SUV sedan. So it's a green, for example, car type is Mercedes. So around color red. Right. No, it's a Ferrari. And we have one more to make it car. That's a blue color. Then we have some design. Right. So we've created some custom models for our from some custom objects for our cars and car model and car type. Now all that's left is to view it the sort of de facto way, like create URLs for it and so if we here, back, this is right. Let's peek into the what changes we've made to those templates URLs. Right. So this is an heavy step, I guess. So we've taken the liberty of adding a base template. So if we check our Django app, our main project, check templates, we have a base template, right? So it extends from bootstrap 5/base.html. So this is a Django CMS template, right? If you have any experience with Django CMS frontend, so this is the Django CMS frontend. This is the bootstrap. This is the bootstrap.base.html. Basically, this is what we are. This extend is basically extending this file in Django CMS frontend, which you have installed in as one of our Django apps, and the bootstrap base.html is also extending Django CMS frontend.html, which is this file. So basically, what bootstrap.base.html does is it automatically adds bootstrap to enable us to use bootstrap. If you can check the script here and the link files here, right? So what I want to show here is this Django CMS frontend.html as this block, right? As this block content which defines a placeholder called page content and as a section HTML tag. So basically what we are doing here is we are taking the content from Django CMS frontend, we are calling it, then now we can also edit it in our models. That's the first part of the changes. Right. Then we have vehicles, views. Right. Right, so we create a list view using the generic views from Django. Create a list view, create a detail view, then create sort of the URLs so that we'll be able to access each of the views. And so if you have a little bit of knowledge about Django CMS views, it automatically for the list view it requires a URL with this it requires a URL with this name, car detail. So any URL you define under templates, vehicles, templates /vehicles folder and you give it this car details, it will be used for the detail view, right? So this is a template that gets rendered for the detail view. So it just takes a car, gives us the name, the color, and the type in the content block. Right, that's the first one. Then the list view. The list view takes a list of all the objects that we've defined, and it's a pretty basic template, right? It just loops over all the cars we have in our database and gives us the absolute URL and a link to each of the car, so the brand and the car name. And then we have, I think now is a good time to show us our models again. I've taken the liberty of adding the absolute URL, which is just a reverse of car details. So right, it's basically anytime we use absolute URLs, this is the link that gets called. So now let's see it in action. Right. So alright, so if we go to right, one more thing that I did not mention. We also have to, let me show it now. So we also have to show how we linked it to our Django model. Alright, yeah, so we've added a vehicle URL. So whenever we go to /vehicle path, that is when the vehicle.urls sort of patterns get rendered. So I want to show that if we go back here. Right, so if we go to /vehicle, right, so these are the vehicles we created. We have Mercedes, Ferrari, Nissan, and if we click on a specific one, right, we have very simple templates: SUV, sedan, crane, Mercedes, and like that. So that was the concept. Now to go to the main app integration, which is integrating it to our Django CMS page. Alright, so the changes we have in our URLs and CMS app, right? So in order to perform app integration in Django CMS, we have to define a new file called CMS app. And we also have to, so we have to define a new file called CMS app. So this is vehicle under our vehicle CMS app. And so Django CMS is looking for a CMS underscore apps module that it expects to define a class which is an instance of CMS app. We have to register it. So this is the way to register it. You can also register it this way. You can also register it Apphook.register, then app. I think this you can also register it and remove this one, but this of ours more syntactic sugar. So give the name of the CMS app, then we have to give it a URLs, right, which is the link to our standalone Django app. So for right now, the Django app is still standing alone. It does not know, CMS does not know anything about it. It does not know anything about our CMS. And basically what app integration means is that we are linking our Django CMS standalone models to our CMS page. like to our CMS app, right? So we'd be able to control the models from our CMS page, for example. So we have to let it know the URLs that is responsible for orchestrating our vehicle models. Since we've given it this model, we take it a step further and remove the vehicle app from our general URL pattern. So I think before we would have something like this. I showed it earlier, right? Include vehicle URLs, right? But we don't need it any longer because we want to hand over the handling of the CMS app. We want to hand it over to our Django to Django CMS, right? So there's no need for this, right? So see, simple as 3 lines, and we are literally handing over our Django CMS model. Our Django model to Django CMS. Right. I want to run server. Right. So how does run server work? Now if we come back here, we would not find anything because we've removed it. If we say vehicle, we get not found because we've removed any reference to it in the main page. Right. So come back here. You can just create a new, for example, let's create a new page. Let's call it car, right? Let's create. Right. Now we have a new car, and we want our Django CMS app to come up under cars. So we have go back here. Go back to our pages, come under car, advanced settings, right? Then we have application, and we have our car application, right? If we did not define the old CMS app, if we did not define the CMS underscore apps module, and we did not give it an instance of CMS app, we would not be able to have access to this car app. So application instance name is vehicle, and then we can save. Right, once we save, we have to restart the model, right? App URL change and URL needs to signifier. Please reload the URSP or restart the server. Restart the server. And we go here, right? Now our car app has access to the list view of our of our vehicle app, right? Of the mode of the, it has access to the list view, and we can click on it. We have get access to a specific instance of a car, right? So, but it's important to know that showing the list view of pages. It's important to know that this is still in draft mode. So let's publish it. And yes, we have our home, our car, and as how to attach our Django models to our CMS page, to a CMS page, right? So we have here, we have our car. Then we take the tutorial a step further. Right. The next thing to do is to check out to our right. So add submenu to the Apphook. So basically, when we integrate our Django models to CMS, it's in Django CMS land. It is called an Apphook, right? And now we want to add submenus to our Apphook. Right. So we make changes in our vehicle and CMS app. Yes. Vehicle menus. Right. So I created a new menus.py which contains an instance of CMS attached menu. CMS attached menu, which defines a get node. Basically, what we do is we iterate over all the objects we have in our database, and we create a navigation node for it, append it to the node, and return the node. Then we register the car submenu. So a good example for a pull request might be to convert this menu pull to a decorator. Right? That's something newbies could look into. Then we have the menus. We define it in our as a menus attribute in our Django CMS app instance. After which we would then show us the latest. All right. And so what does an app what does the menu, what does it do to our Django models? And if we refresh here, we get a caret, right, which contains an instance of our every instance of our class. So we come F80. We have micro, if we want, just to make things easily accessible, right? And if we wanted to come to the pages model, we could still get it from here. It's still our pages model, right? So the next thing is to take our app integration a step further and what enable front-end editing, which is one of the main goals of the tutorial, right? We have using CMS config to enable front-end editing. Switch. Check out order. So BE, I want to check what are the changes we made. Wow, quite the changes. Yeah, so this is the one of the main things that has changed in Django CMS land, which is what front-end editing. So front-end editing used to now in order to enable front-end editing in Django CMS 4 and 5, you first need to define a CMS config module. We'll go into the details of what it does. You have to define a CMS config module. We have to make some changes in our views, which is we have to add the actual object we want to edit. We have to add it to the CMS toolbar. Then we also have to make changes to the admin. So let us go through each of the changes and walk through it. One of the most important ones is the config changes. And we have our vehicle admin. We have our vehicle views, right? So in order to enable front-end editing, we have to first create. We have to first add our specific object, right? So let's say we wanted to edit for example, the micro car. We have to add the actual object to our toolbar, right? So toolbar has this endpoint set object where we set the object, we send it under our get context. We subclass the get context function from detail view and then we return the context. But the main reason for subclassing this thing is to add our object to the toolbar, and what it does is it shows edit button on the Apphook detail page. We also have yes, we also have to create a stub endpoint that takes a request and an object, and because this is the endpoint that Django CMS understands, right? It is expecting a function that takes two parameters, which is request and object, and so we have to find a way to pass those two parameters into our specific detail view. And this is like a little bit of a Django hack thing. If you're familiar with Django, you already know what's going on. So we are taking our Django class-based view, as view converts it to a function-based view, and then we are giving it these two parameters. Right, so this is one of the key modules that enable that makes front-end editing easier in accessible in Django CMS 4 and 5, which is the CMS config. So I think in Django CMS less than 3.5 it used to be, I'm not sure. Right, so we define an instance. So what it is looking for is it's looking for the CMS config is looking for an instance of CMS app config. We can give it a name. I decided not to give it a name here. CMS enabled is set to true. CMS toolbar enabled models. Then we give it a tuple, a tuple of lists, a list containing tuples rather, right? So the tuples has a pair of elements, car and car detail view, which is the stub we created in our views module, right? So this is what actually enables front end. One of the things that enables front end editing, and so this shows the edit button, enables front end editing, and this is another like quirky thing that needs to happen. So we have to our car admin has to be an instance of front-end editable admin mixing. Either that or we set a placeholder field. We'll get more on that later. So another change that happened is so we have right. So we've made a couple of changes to our we've added the CMS tags. Why? It's not necessarily needed for this, so but it's needed in our detailed view. So now we are rendering the model. So in order to enable an we have to edit the specific model we want. So we call this render model tag, which takes the model and then the name of the attributes. That's another changes we made to our model. And yes, let's run server and see the current state of our changes. So if we refresh and we go to a specific instance, right, so we have edit now, which means we can now edit this page, right? Because prior to adding, so prior to adding, right, let's do it this way. Let's comment out this one and server. So and we have this one commented out. If we refresh it, right, we don't get the edit toolbar. Right, so one of the things we have to do is we have to make sure it's quite important to add the specific object we want to our models. Let's load. Okay. And if you refresh again, you get the edit view. Right, so when we click on edit, basically that's what frontend editing means, right? When we click on edit, then we will be able to do something like this. Instead of EQS SUV, let's say I want to change to EQS SUV Maybach. EQS, so SUV Maybach, which is a black car, for example. So black car, and save. Right. If we did not set up front-end editing, right, to make these changes, we would have to go to the admin page, right? We would have to click on the cars, right? Go to specific cars and then start tweaking it. Right, so this just brings like the admin functionality to us in the front end. Move to the next step of the tutorial, which is to edit specific fields. Admin and car details. Right. So if we check the admin and the car details file, we see that we've added a new attribute to the car admin, which is frontend underscore editable underscore fields, which takes a tuple of string, and the strings are the fields of our model that we want to edit specifically. Then we change the render model to include a third parameter, right? So we have the render model, we have the car, which is the actual instance of the object in the database we want to edit. The name is the specific field, so car.name, and the name is telling us to show us only a pop-up field of the specific car and specific color. And so now let's get back to our server. If we run server, we would get right. Say we wanted to edit black, for example. If we double click, right, we'll get only the car. If we double click on Maybach, we get only the Maybach. If we come to any other car, maybe FAT, and we click on edit, get those the red. So I say we want to change it to green, for example. To change it to green, for example. I won't see any. Refresh. Right, we get green, and right. So that's the way front-end editable works. To move on, and last step is to move on and move to using placeholder to add extra content. Using placeholder field to add E7C4 git. Check out E7C4. This card detail and this model. Car list, right? So basically, the placeholders in Django CMS is like a technical concept that allows us to add plugins, right? Add extra elements in our pages. For example, say for this SUV Maybach, and I wanted to add a picture of an SUV here, right? That's something a placeholder can do for us, right? We can have a placeholder, then maybe add a plugin that is an image, right? And that's the way placeholders work. So, but in order to be able to use placeholder fields in CMS, one of the most important thing is to add these function get template, right? We give it an instance of the template that we want to add a placeholder to. Very important. Then we add the placeholder field. So right, these, I mean, if you remember from what I explained earlier, that block.super is the same thing as, right, is the same thing as placeholder, at least in this instance, in this context, the same thing as doing this, right? It's the same thing. Basically, what we are doing here is we are defining a page content and placeholder, like by using block.super, and yeah, that's going to appear in on our page. Right, same thing here. If request.tuber is edit mode, yeah, this is saying if we're in edit mode, it should give us placeholder placeholder page content placeholder. But if we are not in edit mode, it should just render the placeholder as car.content. This is not really necessary. You can remove it if you want. I think this is the main thing. But okay, I mean, this is what we really need, placeholder content. But then if we decide to use car.content, so .content is basically using a CMS utils, which is get placeholder from slot, right, which we can use to get a specific placeholder from all the placeholder we have on our page. So a page can have multiple placeholder, right? We are just using .content to get the page content placeholder, right? We could, I don't know, define, let's say we wanted to define a new placeholder. Now we can actually remove page placeholder, right? And then on our page, a page placeholder would be saved there. And then in order to use get placeholder from slot, we need to define a placeholder attribute, which is an instance of placeholder relation field, which contains all the placeholders we have in our CMS. And lest I forget, page content is automatically defined, like I showed in Django CMS front end. So that's why we are able to call block.super and use it this way. And to reiterate, we need to specify a template, or else we are going to be getting errors. And let's run it and see the way it's supposed to work. All right, so we have, notice that we don't have anything here right now. But then if we refresh, we start getting a structure board. At a structure board, like we start getting this symbol. And if we click on edit and we bring it up, we get page content. Right, so if instead here, right, if here instead of so let's say here we add page or something, we would not get page content, we would get page, right? We would get page instead of page content, or rather we'll get another. Okay, let's just do it. Let's do it since we are here. This is what I am talking about. So let's say here we just something like this. If we save and start our server again. If we save and start our server again, and we click, see, get page instead of page content. So that's what, like that. This is what I mean by that, and we can actually add multiple placeholders. That's something fun. All right. But I like to use the already defined placeholder, so let's just keep it this way. And yeah, that's one server again. And yeah, let's see placeholder in action, right? So what can we do with a placeholder? So let's say we come to our Mikra and we want to give it a plugin. So let's say we wanted to give it an image plugin. I think I have one image. I have an image saved already from save the image and then save, right? And yeah, and we are in action. So this is what placeholder does basically, right? And anytime we come back here, we get the image. So let's see. I don't have any other image. If I had another image, if I wanted to add an image here, I could just do something as simple as edit, right? Come here and add the image for Ferrari, but I don't have any image. Let me see if I can find an image. F80 Ferrari image. So copy image address and come here. No, I don't think this will work. This will not work. That's not a link. So basically, that's the way it is. Cut that out. Then we have Micra. So we have this as blue, just a red car. There's something inline editing, right? So just clicking on that button gives us inline editing, and then save our Micras, right? And that's the way placeholder fields work. It's quite. It's quite important not to forget this get template. It's one of the key things there. All right, that's how placeholders work. Now let's move to the next. Let's move to I made some changes to template. Yeah, I'm in already. So the last part is the right. The last part is adding toolbar to. So basically, this is what I'm talking about. Yes. Adding toolbar to our list view. Now, if we is the server running already, taking it straight on server. So let's say we have. If we go to and if we come here, if we come to a car, right, we notice that we cannot do anything on this page. Literally, the only thing we can do on this page is to click on, is to select a specific item, right? Let's say we wanted to add other things. Maybe we wanted to add a placeholder here, wanted to be able to edit and things like that. So this is where this comes in, where if if request.toolbar is in preview mode or in edit mode, we want to add the currently unpublished image, right? The draft ones, the draft content that we're working on. But if it's not in preview or edit mode, we want to add the published content. And so basically is just like we did for the detail view, request.toolbar.set object, and then sort of but we are getting this object from our admin content and get content object, and it's just a page. It's a page content instance. All right. So there's now if we refresh, right, we get edit. If we can click on edit, see, we can add page content, we can add page content, we get to edit and things like that. So preview mode and things like that. So that's a short tutorial on how to integrate our specific apps, our Django apps to our CMS page, right? And I think one of the most important functionality is this, where we add our models, then we are also adding a CMS feature, right? Because this is not defined in our models, it's from the CMS aspect of the code, right? We are adding our Django model, and we're able to embed a placeholder field to it, and it has various use cases as the case may be. All right, so that's everything on the tutorial. I'm going to release the slide in the comment section so people can have access to it. Join the Django CMS Discord, and bye.